I'm a bit early, so can I ask everybody to relax for 5 minutes? Can you relax? Some people who've been meditating for a long time say that's one of the hardest instructions which I give, to do nothing, to relax totally. No fear, no wanting. One of those sayings which inspired me. It could have come from the Buddha, but this one came from a philosopher. And the philosopher said, when you want something else, you cannot enjoy what you already have. And I love that saying. Every time you want something more, something different, something else, you can't enjoy this moment. To really enjoy this moment, you have to let go of the wanting. What more do you need to be happy? There's one of those old stories which I like about these 3 Australians who were lost in the desert. And they found a little bottle, an old bottle in the desert. And one of them rubbed it. And one of these genies come out. And the genie came out and said, according to the custom, I can give you 1 wish each, a total of 3 wishes. And he asked the first lost Australian, what will be your wish? And that first Australian said, I wish I was back in Sydney, safe with my family, and I could get something to drink. And then the genie just made some magic word, and that fellow disappeared. And he reappeared in Sydney. He'd escaped from the desert. And the second fellow, what's your wish? I wish I was back in Melbourne with my family, nice and cool, have a good meal, and have something to drink. And the genie said something, and then that man was back in Melbourne. He too escaped. And then they asked the third man, what's your wish? And the third man said, I cannot decide whether it's Sydney or Melbourne. I wish my 2 friends were here to help me decide. His 2 friends weren't friendly with him anymore, as he remained lost in the desert. But all the wanting you have, do you really need it? That's one of the reasons why, when we come on a retreat, we notice that the wanting is what the Buddha called a hindrance to meditation. So we just see if we can just live, even for a day, without any wanting. You can sit down and look at your mind. What does it want? Nothing. It's happy where it is. If you can abandon that wanting just for a day, the mind becomes so peaceful. You're not wearing it out. Every time you want something, you're giving up the happiness you already have. And if you can let go of that wanting, you find that is the key to relaxing to the max. You know that a lot of times when I say that as a key to understanding what meditation is and being very successful in meditation, sometimes people say, yes, but, what about right effort? Did the Buddha talk right effort? Many of you who've studied your Buddhism might realize that that is a translation for Samavayama, which many people translate as right effort. But you know, for so many years, that confused me as a monk. We always say, letting go, renouncing, not grasping, no craving, no wanting is the path. And how can you reconcile not wanting with letting go? I remember that was one of the first questions I asked senior monks over in Thailand. I wanted to get more information on what meditation was and why is it becomes so difficult for many people. Why is it you have to spend 8 or 9 days working hard trying to get peaceful states of mind? You are all intelligent enough. You are all good enough. You made more than enough good karma. You know how I can prove that? I always look at Angulimala. He was a serial killer. His precepts were lacking, but he managed to become fully enlightened. How did he do that? What was the really important teaching which the Buddha gave to Angulimala? Angulimala was running after the Buddha, not realizing who he was, with a sharp sword, waiting to cut off his head, or at least one of his fingers. And he could never catch up to the Buddha. And so he shouted out at the Buddha, "Stop, monk, stop!" Very good, little kid. You've got the great qualities of Angulimala. Well done. Okay, stop. That's enough. Anyway, nice to see you. And so the Buddha said, I have stopped. So you stop. And then Angulimala never understood what he meant. But that was his teaching. Learn how to stop. And later on, Angulimala learned how to stop. And to explain what happened to him, I'm going to go forward 2,500 years to Ajahn Chah's monastery in the northeast of Thailand. Ajahn Chah was giving a talk just like I'm giving a talk this evening. Sometimes the talks are very brilliant, sometimes they're terrible. Ajahn Chah was my teacher, and I respect him enormously. But honesty makes me say that sometimes Ajahn Chah gave very boring talks. And this evening was one of them. So Ajahn Chah was giving a boring talk, very long, heard it all before, it wasn't anything new and moving for you. And there was a little novice monk who was listening in. And this novice monk, maybe 11 or 12 years of age, was getting bored and tired, and he started thinking, that may be okay for these grown-up monks, 18, 19 or 20, 21, but I'm a young boy. I'm only here because I have to be here. I'm tired. When is Ajahn Chah going to stop? That word again, stop. When's he going to stop? And Ajahn Chah kept on talking and talking and talking. And those little suggestions, when's he going to stop? 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 Started repeating themselves in his mind. When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? And then an insight happened. You've heard about insight and insight meditation. It's about seeing things from a different angle, seeing things in a way you've never seen before. And a lot of times it changes everything. The little novice in Wat Pah Pong Monastery late at night, getting more and more bored, said, not when is Ajahn Chah going to stop? He asked the question, when am I going to stop? And that was such a surprise to that novice. The novice stopped. When he opened his eyes again, there was many hours afterwards. The sun had come up, all the monks had bowed and left and gone to their huts and had a sleep. They got up in the morning bell to go on alms round. When he opened his eyes, he missed all of that. He was very peaceful, very happy. He never minded going hungry that day. If you didn't get on the alms round, you could not eat. It was the first time that little monk got into a deep meditation. Why? He stopped. How many of you on my retreat have been trying to put effort in? Really struggling, trying to force your attention on the breath, or force the attention to be calm, to be quiet, forcing yourself to let go, forcing yourself to go to the next stage of the meditation. That force, that effort, is the obstacle. And that's one of the reasons why when you learn the power of relaxing to the max, it's not indulgence. It goes way beyond indulgence. Even if you do have an early sleep tonight, what does that do for you? That is not really relaxing. When you are going to sleep, you have thoughts in your mind, you have itches on your body, you still have many things which distract you. But to go beyond all distraction, so you're sitting there perfectly at peace, and your body does relax fully, and your mind relaxes fully. You let go, you're so relaxed, you don't want anything in the whole world. All the wanting vanishes. All the not wanting, the negativity vanishes. You really do go into peacefulness, really relaxing. Your body, your mind relaxes. Your heart is still beating. Your mind is so still, but nothing disturbs you. That's called relaxation. That's one of the reasons why I've given you a couple of clues already during this retreat. So many times, these meditators, some of them put in so much effort. They really sit for long hours. They get up earlier in the morning than I do, and they go to bed later. Sometimes they hardly eat anything. They don't say anything. You know, sometimes they look at them and they said, "You're being more of a monk than I am." Is that true? I talk, I eat, I sleep. Am I a real monk? You bet. Because the path is not on the outside. That path is on the inside. When you learn what relaxation really is. And so what happens? I told one of these stories with that fellow who had a sinus cancer. This is a story of a Malaysian girl. I won't say her name. This Malaysian girl used to come on my retreats, and she was very smart. She was very, very hardworking. She put lots of effort and energy into her meditation. And on one of these retreats we went to, these were organized by the Singaporeans. In those days, please excuse me if there's any Singaporeans here, but the Singaporeans really like their comforts. When they did organize a retreat over in Penang, it was in the north of the island, in one of the nice hotels. And they said, we're not keeping 8 precepts today, just 5 precepts. You know why they said that? At least they were honest. And they said after the evening talk, we finished about 9, 10 o'clock, they went out to the hawker stalls. This is Penang. You know, we can't avoid this. We want to eat. I couldn't convince them otherwise. But nevertheless, on one of these other retreats which they did over in a hotel just after tsunami time. So it was also trying to get the hotel back on its feet again, giving them a bit more business. So we went to a retreat there. And on the last day of the retreat, this Malaysian girl in her interview said she's getting nowhere. She put in the hours, she was keeping her precepts, and she was listening to the talks, she understood them, but she was not getting any deep meditation. Do you understand what I mean? Can you relate to that? Some of you have been meditating with me for years. You know all of the instructions, but you still haven't blissed out in meditation. Why? This is the answer to that question, why? So it came to the end of the retreat, and I did the last meditation, which is normally a loving kindness meditation, and then wishing all the happiness and thanks to all the staff and to everybody else. That was completed. And I was just had an hour or two just to relax because the aircraft from the airport in Phuket was going to take a while before it arrived. And so I was sitting on a bench table with a glass of coconut juice. It was a warm day and I liked that. I was relaxing. This girl, she'd already eaten enough and drank enough. So she told me, this was her words, a Buddhist should never say this. I just went into the meditation hall to kill time. We don't kill anything. Breaking precepts, even killing time. It's the same as over in Australia. Sometimes they say to kill 2 birds with the same stone. That's wrong. I always say to cut 2 carrots with the same knife. The Buddhist similes, not killing. So anyway, she went into the main hall to meditate, to kill time, before the taxi would come and take her to the airport to catch her flight back home, to KL. So she went into that hall. I was outside on the veranda, just talking to a few people the last time, giving them some advice. And then she came out of the hall. And I will always remember this. As she came out of the hall, she came up to the table where I had a glass of coconut juice. And she looked at me with her hands up. I'm imitating this as best I can remember it. Oh, Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Brahm, at last, I got some samadhi. It was wonderful. The afterglow of when you stop is huge. The only thing I could compare it to, and that's not a good comparison, was when somebody falls in love for the first time. Oh, I don't know. And I love that because it was confirming to me as clear as anything that she for the first time got into a jhana. She'd been trying all week and getting nowhere. And so what was different on the last meditation? She let go. She had no agenda, not hoping for anything. She'd been trying all that time but got nowhere. What was the chance of her getting a deep meditation on the very, very, very last meditation? She got it because she gave up. She gave up trying. You sat down, in her words, killing time. There's another story very similar to that. Because when you want to get some meditation success, when you want to get insight, when you want to get the bliss of jhanas, that wanting is enough to stop you. There was another similar event many years earlier. There was one of the Buddha's disciples, one of his main famous disciples, Venerable Ananda. Now, you may all know enough about Ananda's story. He was a cousin of the Lord Buddha and would follow the Lord Buddha around everywhere for the last 25 years. He was so knowledgeable about what the Buddha said, but he was not an arahat himself yet. And so when the Buddha announced he was going to pass away soon, and Ananda knew that this was not sort of like just a promise which will be broken. He knew the Buddha was going to die very, very soon. And poor old Ananda was not enlightened yet. Imagine that, not enlightened, after all those years he spent with the Buddha. It's very similar to get you to feel what it must be like. Imagine at this meditation retreat here that I made the announcement that every one of you was enlightened now, except for you. How would you feel? Oh, that's really nasty. I've been putting forth the effort. I've been trying hard. Everyone else is enlightened. I'm not. No, that's terrible. So that's how Ananda felt. He was not enlightened yet, and almost everyone else was, all his friends. And so what did he do? Just after the Buddha did pass away, Ananda was so disappointed that he was not enlightened yet, and his main teacher departed. He thought, is there any hope for me? So what happened to cause his enlightenment was quite strange. The other monks had arranged a meeting, 500 monks, most of them enlightened. Actually, 499 of them were arahats, fully enlightened. The odd one out was you, Venerable Ananda. And Venerable Ananda felt, I don't even think I can go. All these other people are enlightened and I'm not. But because he'd heard so much, they insisted he attend. So that night before this big convocation with all of these arahats, what they were going to do, they were going to recite all they've heard, all the teachings and the Vinaya as well, the rules for the monks and nuns. Recite everything so they could remember it, collect it, preserve it for humanity for thousands of years. What did the Buddha actually say? And so that night, out of desperate embarrassment, Ananda decided this is his last chance. The following morning after dawn, they start this meeting. And he said, okay, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm going to meditate all night. It was one of those occasions they call enlightenment or bust. Please never do this. You always bust. So what Ananda did, he tried his very best. He meditated all night. He was a good meditator, but he couldn't break through. He didn't know why. And so when the sun came up, he opened his eyes. He knew he was not an arahat. He was not enlightened yet. So he thought, okay, I'm exhausted. I tried my best. It just doesn't work for me. So he then started what I've called to this day the Ananda method of enlightenment. Please listen carefully. This actually happened. This happened to many others as well. The Ananda method of enlightenment. He decided there's still an hour to go before the meeting. So he went into his room to crash out, have a rest, have a sleep. That's what he wanted to do. He was exhausted, meditating all night, so he decided to take a rest. And according to what most people know, which is true, just as his head was about to hit the pillow, he got the insight which made him a full arahat. What was happening there? He was letting go. But something was stopping him all this time. And when he stopped wanting to be enlightened, when he stopped craving for it, he put that aside. All the rest of the stuff he'd been doing all night came to fruition. And he became the 500th enlightened one at that meeting. But how can you prove to others who've known you all your life, and they know you haven't been enlightened before, how can you show them you are now? So this is what Ananda did. As soon as he realized he was enlightened, he obviously rejoiced, and he decided to deliberately go to the meeting late. So when the time came up for the meeting, the other monks inside locked the door, and Ananda came deliberately late through the keyhole. A big bolt of fire coming through that keyhole, and then he emerged from that bit of fire. And then they realized, oh, welcome Ananda. So you're enlightened too. Well done. So that's the way I want you to prove to me. Well, that's a pretty accurate story. He let go enough to become fully enlightened. But does it mean you don't put any effort at all in your practice? You just sit there and let go? Or just go to sleep, on the cushions right now? Is that the way of enlightenment? No one's got enlightened by falling asleep during one of my talks. You've been thrown out of the hall, yes. What's going on there? And so to explain it, how to relax to the max, or put it in the context, it's the story of the donkey and the durian. I changed some of the details of this story depending on where I deliver this story. It's always a donkey though. The particular fruit depends on the place where you're giving the talk. Do you like durian? Are the durians in Penang sweeter than the durians you get elsewhere? Well, the donkey and the durian story. People in the old days used to use donkey carts. They tied the donkey to a cart and they put all the stuff they wanted to carry from one place to the other, whether it was people or durians or mangoes or rice. And the donkey had to pull that cart. Now, even where I was growing up, in London, it didn't have any durians there, but we used to have the saying that some people are more stubborn than the donkey, because donkeys were incredibly stubborn. Sometimes the owner of the donkey can get a stick out and beat that donkey, the poor donkey, and the donkey wouldn't move. That's not how you use a stick on a donkey, especially if you're a Buddhist. That's really mean. Sometimes I look at these animals, I feel really sorry for them. And anyway, how the wise owner of a donkey gets that donkey to move, he doesn't hit the donkey with a stick. He ties the stick to the donkey's neck. So the front of the stick is about 2 foot in front of the donkey's head. On the end of this stick, the owner ties a string. On the end of the string, 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth, he ties a piece of durian. If you were that donkey and you saw a durian 2 foot in front of your mouth, what would you do? You'd move towards the donkey to try and catch it, eat it. But what happens? The donkey may be stubborn, but he's not that smart. So the donkey moves towards the durian. You can smell it. Wow, that's a nice durian. You can see it. It's so big and so juicy looking. But when he moves towards the durian, the stick on his back moves, the string moves, and the durian moves as well. That's why you can fool the donkey into pulling the cart a long distance, and the owner never has to replace the durian. He never catches it. However, in places in Asia, like Penang, many times you've had Buddhist monks and nuns come and teach. And many times those donkeys have been just tied up outside and they've heard how to catch that durian. That's why these days you'll never see a farmer, a poor man over in Penang, putting a stick with a durian in front of a donkey. Have you ever seen one of those? This is why, because the donkey's figured it out. So how the donkey catches the durian, he sees it 2 foot in front of him and walks towards the durian. And durian is always about 2 foot ahead of him. Does that ring any bells in life? How many times all what you want, enough money to retire, a nice house, a nice partner, enough kids, you've got good health and everything. How often is it you can see it? You can almost grab it. You go towards it and it goes further away from you. To many, that's the meaning of your life, the suffering of life. What you see is almost within arm's reach. You reach out for it and it either disappears or it goes further away. So, the donkey knows that. It moves towards the durian. The durian moves further away. The donkey starts running towards the durian. The durian is still 2 foot away. But then the donkey does what Angulimala did. Stop, Angulimala, said the Buddha. And the donkey remembers. That's how you catch the durian. The donkey stops. When the donkey stops, what happens next? The durian swings further away. When you stop in this meditation practice, you get a bit confused. Ajahn Brahm, I can't even see my breath at all. It's gone way away. I can't sort of have any mindfulness. Mindfulness is totally gone. Have faith. Be patient. Wait. And so what happens? The durian goes further and further away until that durian goes 4 foot in front of the donkey's mouth. Never been that far away ever before. What many people do, they think this is not working. So then they start to move, start to put effort in. They spoil it all. Just relax to the max. Stop. And when the beautiful breath or nimittas or jhanas seem to be going further away than ever, if you stop, something really weird happens. You find the durian starts to swing towards you. It's never done that before. And as it's swinging towards you, it's very soon at its usual position, 2 foot in front of your mouth. But this time, the only time you've ever seen this happen, that durian is coming full speed towards your mouth. Really fast. Usual place, but it's not just sitting there, it's just coming fast towards you. And as it comes really close to you, there's one last instruction that donkey has to remember. Have you seen how big donkey's teeth are? That last instruction, as the durian comes really close, is to say to that durian, Durian, the door of my mouth is open to you. Otherwise it bounces off the donkey's teeth. That's how people get enlightened. How Ananda, he let go. He was running so fast after enlightenment. He was running so fast, getting nowhere, so he just went to sleep. He didn't actually go to sleep, he just went for a lay down. And to this day, I call that the Ananda method of enlightenment. So by the end of this retreat, if you haven't got enlightened yet, go to bed. Okay, that's a little bit of a funny story, but there's a lot of truth in that if you can understand how to relax to the max. And when you do relax to the max, you find just how easy this all is. Because we feel enlightenment is some product like wealth, or a pretty delightful partner in life, or lovely kids, or whatever else you think makes you happy in this world. A nice mansion somewhere. There was a story about a mansion which somebody reminded me of. They sent this email to me. And I was trying to convince them, don't worry about death. If you've been a good person, what happens to you if you're a good person and you die? You go to a heaven realm. So I told this story. There was this couple. They were really old, but they'd been married for years together. They spent so much time together that when one of them died, the other one died a couple of days later. Have you seen that? I've seen that quite a few times. And the other one misses the deceased partner so much that they just give up and die as well. So these two people, they appeared up in a heaven realm together. And as they appeared together in the heaven realm, one of these heavenly beings said, I'm here just to show you your heavenly reward. And showed them this beautiful mansion on the cliffs with this gorgeous view. And they always say its location was what makes mansions so expensive. And so the angel said, "Sir, this is the heavenly reward for both of you. This beautiful mansion is quite safe. It won't fall over the edge of the cliff. There'll be no tremors or anything." And the man said, "Yes, beautiful. So I kind of dreamed of mansions like this." But he said, "But I just haven't got much income. I will not be able to afford the council taxes." Do you have council taxes in Penang? Is it the bigger the house, the more you have to pay? And that's what he said, "I can't afford it." And the angel said, "Sir, this is a little truth that you all should know. Up in heaven, they don't allow councils. It's for free." And so he took him inside the house. And inside the house had such amazing furnishings. You know, they had these wonderful paintings, and they had even a TV set. It was huge TV set. And it was like about 10 meters wide and 2 meters high. And he said, "I know you used to like the soccer matches in UK. So you can turn it on and your favorite team will always be playing. Because this is heaven, we've arranged it so your favorite team will be losing until the last minute. And then they'll score 2 or 3 miraculous goals and you win just at the very end. Please do that so you can enjoy it." And they took him in. All the chandeliers were not Waterford crystal, all diamond. They took him into the toilet, the washroom. In the washroom, of course, the toilet bowl was solid gold. And he invited the woman to please press, the flush button. And when she saw the flush button, that was another 50-carat diamond. And when he flushed the toilet, water never came out. Chanel number 5 came out. It was a heavenly mansion. And the whole mansion was like that. And straight away he said, "Look, there's so much expensive stuff in this house. I don't think I would be able ever to afford insurance premium." And the angel said, "Sir, why do you need insurance premium? We don't allow thieves to come up to heaven. They go the other place. No insurance. And if there's anything you don't like in this house, let me know. We'll change it straight away." And then the angel took them to the triple garage. In that triple garage, 3 vehicles. The first vehicle was a stretch limo. Really stretch. They had a swimming pool in the back. The second vehicle was a second vehicle as one of these all-terrain vehicles. So this vehicle is so powerful, it can go anywhere through the mountains. It can even, so strong, it can go up waterfalls, go up them. And this last vehicle was a limited edition Lamborghini. Incredibly fast car. He said we knew how we would look at the magazines. He kind of dreamt of riding in a fast car. And this one's for you to enjoy. And straight away, he was always a negative guy. So he said, but what's the point of driving a fast car, say in Penang? Number one, traffic jam. Number two, police. They'll fine me so much money for speeding. Are there speed cameras in Penang? Any of you got caught yet? Don't tell me. And the angel said, oh, please, sir. There are no police up in heaven. No traffic jams. It's heaven. You can go as fast as you like. And if you have an accident and you kill yourself, don't worry, you're already dead. He opened the garage doors, and on the opposite side of the road to the garage was an 18-hole golf course with a beautiful clubhouse in the middle. And the angel couldn't help but saying how that golf course came about. He said, some years ago, we had the Buddhist layperson, Thai, called Tiger Woods. When he had a big argument with his wife at the time, he got in his car and had a car accident. When he had that car accident, he survived. He lived for many more years. But because of that car accident, he came so close to dying, he had an out-of-body experience. We took him and it got him to design this golf course before we sent him back down to earth. This golf course designed by Tiger Woods. And straight away the guy looked to the clubhouse. He said, my goodness, you have to be a millionaire to actually join a clubhouse like that. This is a very elite golf course. Have you got those type of golf courses in Malaysia? Only really, 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 really wealthy people with lots of connections can actually go and play in there. And he said, I won't be even elected to be a member. And the angel said, you already are a member. And the man said, a life member? No, a death member. And that's when the angel left them. And as soon as the angel went away, the man got very angry at his wife. Started shouting at her and cursing her and saying really bad words about her. And as soon as he paused for a breath, that's when his wife said, why are you so angry? You've got this beautiful mansion. You can watch your favorite football team. They always win at the last moment. I can go and go on the gold shower and smell Chanel No. 5 over my poo. And you've got your car, so you've got your fast car. You can drive it however long you want. You don't have to worry about police, about accidents, about death. And when you get bored of that, you can go over and play a game of golf. You're a death member there forever. And the man said, yes, that's why I'm angry at you, wife. If it wasn't for all that health food you gave me over so many years, I would have been up here years ago. How many of you eat and drink healthy food? I think you need to instruct your wives to get rid of you quicker so you can go to your favourite golf course. But anyway, I say stories like that just so people can see different things and look at what happens in this world in a different way. And in the meantime, make sure You make enough good karma and merit. So if you do die, and you're not enlightened yet, you can have a happy time up there. That makes sense? So anyway, going back to learning how to let go, that sort of donkey letting go of the carrot or the piece of durian, that's how it catches the piece of durian. Running after it, and you've all been running after whatever you like and want in life for so many years. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see what happens when you don't run after anything? You come on a retreat and you sit down and experience these things coming to you. That is one of the... I'm saying this with real honesty. You've known me for so many years, many of you, and I would not fool you. Okay, that story about the golf course, was made up. But nevertheless, about the Dhamma and how enlightenment works, that wasn't made up. This is what happens when you learn how to let go. Just to sit here and be patient. You find that all these great experiences, they come to you. And to also give more evidence for that, this is one of the stories Ajahn told me. He told all the monks at the time, in my first few months over in Wat Ba Pong. How long ago was that? What's 51? 2025 now, this is 1974. And I heard this story many times. Because Ajahn Chah would repeat the stories. He'd repeat them again and again and again. Then he moved on to other material, other stories he would tell. And he never repeated this first story I heard. And so, when I got round to writing some books, after writing just the usual books, I thought, someone has to present this story, because it's one of the most powerful, beautiful stories Ajahn Chah ever said. So I put it in one of my books. I forget actually which one now. But the story goes like this. Ajahn Chah said his monastery was a mango orchard. And as soon as he said that, it had to be translated to me because I didn't understand Thai at the time, was Sun Mumon, mango orchard. And he said those mangoes, the trees were planted by the Buddha himself. And straight away I said, come on. The Buddha never visited Thailand. When I was in Sri Lanka a couple of years ago, at a big conference, I was presenting the conference, the main speaker there. And so at the question and answer time, one of the monks, very, very good monk, he was translating the questions. And he said, as he translated it into English, there are some monks in Sri Lanka saying that the Buddha was born in Sri Lanka. What do you think, Ajahn Brahm? And my response was, no hesitation. No, everybody knows the Buddha was born in Australia. And that's what all the people, there's about 3,000 or 4,000 people in that auditorium, and they all burst out laughing just like you did. And when the translating monk managed to calm down, then I said, silly questions deserve silly answers. But anyway, Ajahn Chah was just using this as a simile. a metaphor, they call it. So when he said his trees were planted by the Lord Buddha, I listened again. He said to him, now so many of those mangoes on the trees planted by the Buddha here in this monastery, and they're sweeter than ever, juicier than any mango you've ever eaten. Delicious. But the problem is, there's only one way to get those mangoes. If you shake the tree, they will not fall. If you get a ladder, the ladder will never be tall enough to reach them. Even if you throw things at those mangoes, you'll always miss. Even if you get a helicopter and get the army to come and get those mangoes, they'll never be able to go high enough to reach them. There's only one way to get those mangoes. I love this answer. At the time, I really thought this was an interesting simile. But after years and years of meditating, you realize how accurate and beautiful the simile actually is. He said the only way to get those mangoes, the only way you'll ever reach or receive them, you have to sit under that mango tree, perfectly still. Stillness. And you put out your hand, and a mango will fall. The first time I heard that, that's absolutely dumb. There's no mango trees in Wat Pah Pong at that time. And have you ever tried that? You sit under a mango tree, just put your hand out. If it does fall, it falls on top of your head, not in your hand. But then after those years, you realize how beautiful that simile is. Sit perfectly still. Perfectly still. That's relaxing to the max. Open the door of your heart. Put your hand out, and a mango will fall. That's how people become enlightened. Perfectly still, first of all, and don't want anything in the whole world. Wanting something disturbs the process. You sit there, relaxed to the max. When you do relax to the max, any wanting disturbs you. Relax to the max, put your hand out, pop, thank you. First jhana, pop, second jhana, pop. Fourth stream winner, thank you. Fifth, once returner. Sixth, non-returner. And then the most delicious mango in the whole world. Full enlightenment. That's not a joke. That's how Ajahn taught me. And sadhu, sadhu, sadhu to him. That's what the Buddha said to Angulimala. Stop, monk, stop. I have stopped. You stop. That's one of the reasons also why few people do become enlightened. It's because they don't get correct teachings. Or if they do get a correct teaching, they don't believe them. They don't trust them. The right effort is the effort to stop, to be still, to let go. And let in the emptiness, let the Dhamma come right into you. What happens afterwards? How do you tell someone you're enlightened? If you're an Ananda, you can come through the keyhole in the morning. But in the time of the Buddha, there was one of these occasions when Ananda was actually looking after the Buddha. He was not enlightened yet. And this monk came up to the Buddha and said, is it correct that once you are fully enlightened, an arahat, you never think you are better than anybody else or worse than anybody else? You don't even feel you're the same as anybody else. And the Buddha looked and smiled, yes. Another monk came up and said the same. Once you're enlightened, is it true? You never think you're better, worse, or the same as another person. Correct. And those two monks bowed and went away. And the Buddha turned to Ananda and said, that's how monks who've just become enlightened say it to me. They're not better, they're not worse, they're not the same. No ego left. No shame, no negativity, no pride. All of that is totally gone. So that's the talk this evening. Relaxing to the max. I think some of your laughing muscles did not relax. But I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I hope it did make an impression for you. What is enlightenment? How does it happen? If you try, you always fail. Run after that carrot, you never catch it. Stop, and it comes to you. Sit perfectly still under the mango tree. Hand out. Thank you. Sounds a bit crazy, but that's how it works. Okay. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, got a few questions here. If you want to ask another question, please, you can put your hand up. Okay, yes. Thank you.
Ajahn, if I relax to the max, I go to sleep. Is there any solution to that? Thank you.
You're not relaxing enough. It's not to the max. It's incredible that a lot of times people don't know how to deal with silence and rest. You feel happy. Now what do I do? Nothing. You're happy, you're at peace. If you want to stay in peace, don't do anything, don't disturb it. And you don't fall asleep, you don't need sleep. That's one of the weird things in these meditations. And sometimes you get so powerfully in the meditation, there's so much bliss coming up. It's not just the television and the golden toilet and you press a diamond button and Chanel number 5 comes out. This meditation is much more happiness than that. But it gives you a taste. This is not about endurance. This is about you feel so peaceful, so happy. And it's time for you to go to bed. Okay, you may go in your room and shut the door. You sit down and bliss out all night. You don't feel like sleeping. You don't have to sleep. And those are the really nice times. We're actually showing, why do you need sleep anyway as a human being? Because we think too much, mostly. We worry too much. And if we can lessen our thinking, that's what meditation does. You're at peace, you're sitting there, you're not thinking anything. You know a weird thing I'll share with you. When I say stuff like that, you don't think anything. You say, well, you're thinking, Ajahn Brahm, you're telling all these stories and all these teachings, you must be thinking about them before you say them. When people ask me that question, I observe the next time I gave a talk. Weird. But if I'm speaking, I'm not thinking. That's so weird. And to the point that recently I gave a talk in Perth about the will. You know, what makes you do stuff. And then I said, one of the experiences I had years ago in Perth, when I gave another talk about will, about 30 or 40 years ago. And all those talks were recorded. And I saw that particular talk which I'd given years ago in the cassette tape library. They were recorded on cassette tapes in those days. And I looked at it, and I knew that I'd given another talk, the same subject, about 2 years before. And I wondered, how has the talk developed over the years? So I listened to both of them and compared them. It did give me goosebumps when I saw that I'd repeated whole paragraphs exactly the same. How could that happen? It was not done using willpower. It was not done trying to remember everything. It was automatic. That Dhamma had gone into the mind, not the brain. The brain changes, the mind doesn't. And the mind just repeated it word for word. That was really spooky when that's you doing that. Because I always thought that I chose which word to say and how to put that idea. I didn't. It was conditioned, repeated, like brainwashed. If that ever happens to you, you're not going mad and going crazy. I experienced that. You had to admit this was true. You don't realize how much you are brainwashed, how much you're conditioned. That's why I have to condition you to make sure you relax to the max. You stop chasing the durian. You sit down there and just let the mango just fall into your hand. So peaceful, so still. That's why it can fall into your hand. That's how enlightenment happens. That may go so much against how you were taught. There will come a time in your meditative life that brainwashing I just did on you will be remembered. And you think, this isn't going to work. We try it, and it does. Another enlightened Penang. Thank you so much. Okay, let's do a couple of the written questions. Sometimes the Dhamma is weird, but after a while, when you practice it for so long, you realize, yeah, that's what happens. Okay, good evening, Ajahn Brahm. In Buddhism, we always heard about attaining enlightenment. In general, how do you define enlightenment? Blissed out, full knowledge, never want anything else in the whole world. The last life, when you pass away and die, no more rebirth, no more existence. You've done your job. You're gone. Gone. Gone, baby. Gone. When some people say, oh, Ajahn Brahm, isn't that annihilation? Nothing was there to begin with. How can you ever call it annihilation? Years ago, I was a theoretical physicist, scientist. I remember just because people found out that, I was a Buddhist monk, meditator, quite well known, but also a physicist. I used to do these presentations, with other people in physics. And this was our local professor of physics in the University of Western Australia. He was also the Scientist of the Year in Australia. So he wanted to do a talk with me. And when I started presenting my talk, I said, this is going away from Buddhism a tiny bit. I said, as I understand physics, there is energy, physical energy. This is what Einstein's great discovery was. that even matter has energy. It was E equals mc squared. So you can transform mass into energy and energy back into mass. And then I was telling him that sometimes you have some blobs of mass, like me. I have a negative energy component because I'm within the Earth's gravitational field. To get me free from that Earth's gravitational field will take energy. And I have some energy, in the matter of my body. Maybe I've got more energy than most. So, to use my own energy to get me out of the Earth's gravitational field and the Sun's gravitational field, I would have to lose some weight, some energy. So there's a negative energy with matter as well as a positive energy. And I turned around to this Professor David Blair, his name was. I said, what would happen? What would happen if the energy in our universe, the energy in this blob called planet Earth, and every other planet, and the sun, the solar system, everything, what would happen if to get that free from everything else, it would all cancel out to nothing? If all the matter and energy in this whole universe could come into one point, would it explode with excess mass energy, or would it cancel each other out? And I said, I suspect it would cancel everything out. Nothing will be less. The zero sum of mass energy in our universe was zero. I remember his response to that. He turned around to me and said, wow, Ajahn Brahm, you're really up to date. That was how most cosmologists understand it. Our universe is zero sum. It can come from nothing. It goes back to nothing, absolute nothing. The same as you. Okay, I better do another question. Is this okay for you, or okay? We always heard about enlightenment. In general, how do you define enlightenment? Halo behind the head. Halo behind the head. Sometimes if you go and have, you've got sort of a cancer in the brain or something, and you have radiation therapy, you may see your head like having a halo. Is that true? I don't know, halo around the head. They used to be like old ways. They would define saints. They paint this halo behind them. That doesn't mean anything. Sometimes you do see some weird stuff. If you ever see some weird stuff, if you can take a photo of it, that's another thing. Make sure the people taking the photos have got good cameras which actually work. It's not an anomaly of the photographic process. Because that used to be an anomaly of the photographic process. What was happening, you've probably seen this, it was only a few years ago. Sometimes people taking photographs, and as they took these photographs, sometimes close-up photographs, they would see like a little star behind them, or actually on their heart or something. They thought that's proving that person must be a special person, either enlightened or just specially blessed. It looked a bit weird to me. And then somebody took a photograph in a pub in UK, and all these little halo stars were all over the place. And I thought, wow, This must be where enlightened beings spend a Saturday night out. That's only a joke. But what it was these new electronic cameras. They changed the position of the aperture and the flash. So much so, all it was a diffraction pattern of the light on dust particles. As soon as I saw that, because I remember just messing around with diffraction patterns when I was a scientist, that's exactly what it looked like. And of course they soon found out that's actually what it was. Nothing holy about that. You don't find holy people, enlightened ones, in a pub. Many people were disappointed, but it's true. So anyhow, that when it comes to halos behind people, that says nothing about their ability, to renounce the world. Enlightened beings will be very kind, very simple, and their wants are very small. That makes sense to you? To me, it was very hard. I was living with this teacher. Some people said he was definitely enlightened. How would I know? He could read minds. I'll tell you a story about that later on in this retreat. But the thing which convinced me that this Ajahn Chah was an enlightened monk was, again, when I went to see where he lived, his private quarters in Wat Pah Pong. And in those quarters, you saw hardly anything there. And I knew he could have whatever he wanted. That's a grass mat, a wooden pillow, hardly anything else. I still remember that. Kind of shocked me. But that really still showed how, when he could have everything in the whole world, how little he actually had. So anyhow, please, maybe I should write a book. Just test for your teachers. See if you can find out which one is enlightened, which one is It's easy to find out who's not enlightened. That's easy to see. Make them angry. You think you're enlightened? Come on. Honestly, this is one way. Can I say? Yeah, okay, I'll say it. This is one way in which I can find out whether someone who says they've just been into a jhana, whether they have or have not been in a jhana. I look at them and I say, please excuse me, I've already given you a hard time already. Can I give you a hard time again? Okay, I look at you and say, people from Penang cannot attain jhana. And see how you react. If you say, okay, fair enough, okay, probably was a jhana. But if you look at me and say, what? That's wrong. Doesn't matter where you're born. Then why are you saying that for? That is rude. That is not respectful. I'm not going to go to any of your talks ever again. If ever you react like that, I thought, yeah, it's true. You haven't got a jhana. I've actually done that. It's a bit of fun. A lady comes up to me and says she's got jhana. I say, I'm sorry, but women can't attain jhana. It's impossible. Men can, but not you. Look at you. Are you really upset? If you are upset, it wasn't a jhana, because after a jhana, for a long time, you can have no ill will. no sort of lack of joy. You're so at peace. No one can upset you. So sometimes I try my best to upset you. Sometimes it's hard because sometimes I've known you for such a long time. I usually spoil it myself and I try to upset you on a good purpose to see if that really was a jhana or not. And I burst out laughing. Sorry, I can't help myself. So anyway, what was the question? Okay. Entering a jhana is known as entering an enlightenment stage. No, it's not. A jhana is a cause, for seeing things as they truly are, but it's not the result. So it's not entering the enlightenment stage. Please explain these stages. First, second, third, fourth jhana, full enlightenment. Jhanas are not an enlightenment stage. It gives you the power and the data to see things as they truly are. The data as well. How's the time going? Only 1:15. Okay. I'll give you all some of the best stories. I was going to keep this till later on. But here it comes. In some of these jhanas, you're seeing a pure mind state. If you can hear sounds, feel anything in your body or on your body, it's not a jhana. Someone can tap you on the shoulder. Someone can bang, you won't hear it. I mentioned that already with that fellow. His name was Greg, if you want to know, so many years ago. He went to hospital and had defibrillators put on him because his wife freaked out when he wouldn't respond to her, when he wasn't breathing, and when she couldn't feel any pulse. This is a totally true story. And so they called 999, the ambulance service. They came pretty quickly, took him to hospital. The medics and the doctor checked him out. Everything was flatlining. No heartbeat, no brain activity, just no pulse. To all intents and purposes, he was dead. The only difference between a dead person and a person in deep meditation was, do you remember? Warmth, yes. I wanted to check out that you remembered that. If any of the monks in front go into one of these states, don't send him to the morgue. Don't cremate him yet. Check his body temperature. Recently we had an incident of that in Perth. I'll tell this to you. This was, we're doing a joint retreat between Hong Kongese and Indonesians. I think I got that right. One of the Hong Kong girls, this was just before the start of our rains retreat. One of the Hong Kong girls decided to do meditation on the stupa at Jhana Grove. This was before the rains retreat, really cold, even raining, but not heavily. So she went out there about midnight and spent most of the night sitting on the stupa. When other people, her friends, saw that, they thought, this is not healthy, it's really cold and wet. So they put a blanket around her. Thank you for doing that. But when the sun came up, we were having a ceremony. And they wanted her to come for breakfast later on to get ready, pack her stuff, because they had a plane to catch that day. So she was sitting there and they said, come on, we've got to go now. She never responded. She just kept on sitting there, like she was dead. And then the head of that group came to see me over in Bodhinyana Monastery. It's about a 15-minute walk away. And she said that one of members had been sitting on that stupa most of the night. It was really cold, and she doesn't respond now. I asked her, please, come, we've got a plane to catch soon, we've got a retreat ceremony to do, please come now. She never moved. That's why the leader came to see me. They said, first mistake, you don't shout and use force to someone who's in a deep meditation. That will never get through. Say it kindly, softly, and make it more powerful by telling her, Ajahn Brahm, who she respected, Ajahn Brahm asks you, please come over to Bodhinyana Monastery for some breakfast. And also feel her body. So they went over there, go in the car, don't waste time. So she went in the car, felt this lady's body. It was warm. And she told it kindly, please come over to Bodhinyana Monastery to see Ajahn Brahm for breakfast. And the girl still didn't move. So she came over to Bodhinyana Monastery. I was in the main hall there. She said, I tried that, it didn't work. I said, wait. If you're in a deep meditation, you can't just come out straight away. It takes some time. And sure enough, a few minutes later, actually maybe 10 minutes later, she walked into the hall, my hall. She walked all the way from Jada Grove to Bodhinyana Monastery. And I said, you want some breakfast? She said, no, I'm fine. You feel okay? I feel great. I just want to meditate some more. I said, okay, go and sit over there. And that's what she did. It's nice knowing how it works. I don't know what they'd have done if I wasn't there. Probably called an ambulance and made a big fuss and bother. Don't do that. Remember the power of kindness. And it worked fine. That's how it works. Please remember that. Because I hope many of the monks here, especially under Venerable Kai Si, if you do get into a really nice deep meditation like he does, don't be harsh in your speech. That does not get people out of deep meditation. Be so kind. Please. It's a really good idea if you come out of meditation. That's what Ajahn Brahm would have liked you to do. And it works. Beautifully well. Okay. Lord Buddha said consciousness is not permanent. Correct. You can't question the Buddha. In a recent YouTube talk by a prominent Luang Por, he said consciousness is not born and does not die. Can Ajahn please clarify? Is this pure consciousness that is being reborn? No. There's no such thing as pure consciousness. Consciousness is always with its defilements. If it had no defilements, at death it would cease together with all the other factors of existence. The idea of pure consciousness is a myth, got more to do with Hinduism than Buddhism. When things cease, we call it parinibbana. Why do they call it parinibbana? The pari bit means complete, total, 100%. That's why they also call it asesa viraga nirodha. Consciousness with no remainder. Zero remainder. The trouble is that people who are not enlightened yet get worried about that. They think, well, I worked so hard to get enlightened. Can't I enjoy it afterwards? Basically, they're looking for the last retirement home of their consciousness, where they can live happily ever after, just like Disney movies of, what was it, the fairy princess and the king. We have this idea, I want to end happily ever after and enjoy it. It does not happen. Many people can try and contrive that this happens. It does not. Once you're enlightened, you teach for a while, and when you die, you're gone. Gone, baby, gone. No more rebirth. No more existence. No more senses for you. And there's great little sayings of the Buddha. I don't have them with me. It says that when a person's enlightened, one of the signs that they are enlightened, they know after their 5 candles dissolve at death, there's no more senses ever associated with them in any form whatsoever. They are gone. I really don't know why people are scared of that. That shows they want to be. That is one of the deepest defilements. And if any Luang Por or monk, nun, anybody says that, they are wrong. Provable wrong. Ajahn never said that. One day, I was still in Thailand at the time, I think my last year in Thailand, before I moved over to Australia. And one monk, who's a great monk, this French monk, because he had such nerve, he would ask the toughest questions of any monk. And so he asked Ajahn once, what do you think about this question? Is there such a thing as an original mind? They call that in Thai Chit Derm. That's what some of these monks are referring to. The Buddha said, what? Chit Derm, original mind. I was just staying at Wat Ba Nana Chat when this question was asked. I got immediate sort of report about it. Ajahn says, no such thing. You can call it whatever you like, but once you're in line, that's it. Gone. That was Ajahn Chah's answer. He totally denied it. And that was such a powerful teaching that I translated that together with the monk who was second monk at the time, as Ajahn Dhamma. We did a joint translation because I wanted more than just me saying this. And that's how we translated it. The first translation. No. You go. They think, well, what's going to happen about Buddhism? If Ajahn Chah disappears, if the Buddha disappears and nothing left, who's going to carry on? Buddhism is thriving well. Other monks are becoming enlightened, other nuns, and they are teaching. And real monks and nuns, that's how they teach. In what direction or goal do we guide our children when we know that the future is uncertain? Teaching children is challenging because you can't teach children Four Noble Truths. Okay, children, please remember the Four Noble Truths. Please remember Ajahn and the story of the donkey and the carrot. Basically, their brain is not equipped. So one day, years ago, Wesak time, I was invited to Singapore to teach. And one person asked me, can you please teach at our school? I said, yeah, of course. But it's a kindergarten. And I said, definitely. I'd like a challenge. And that was a challenge. Because in Singapore, the kindergarten were up to 3-year-olds. 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. How on earth do you teach young children Dhamma and Buddhism? But I must admit, I should confess, I'd done something similar years ago in this Christian school over in Roleystone in Perth. One of my disciples was teaching meditation every day in the class which he took, the year 6s. And the headmaster, he had lots of complaints from the parents who were Buddhist. From the parents who were Christian. How come you're teaching our kids Buddhism in the school? He said, it's not Buddhism, it's common sense. Your children have got a great teacher. They're doing so much better academically and also socially. This was about 30 years ago. And he said, a good example, if there's any conflict in the classroom, boys and girls, year 6s were 11 years and 12 years of age, starting puberty. There's always conflict there. But he said, whenever there's an argument, about to be a fight, one of the kids would put their hand up and say, Miss, can we have quiet time now? That's what she called meditation. And all the kids, every one of them, would sit down quietly to do quiet time. And after 10 minutes, all that conflict vanished. So they wanted me to come to that school, to teach some meditation. Not meditation, some Buddhism. When I saw it was, the grade 1, grade 2s. It's not quite the kindergarten. The kindergarten was a bit more difficult, but it worked. And the grade 1 and grade 2s, about 60 of them. So I asked them, when I saw them, I sat in front of them, and I said, how many of you do not like rice pudding? Rice pudding. And then 3 kids in the middle put their hand up. They did not like rice pudding. And then all the other kids, grade 1s and grade 2s, 5, 6-year-olds, they looked around. The psychology of kids means they put their hand up too. A few more and then a few more. And soon I had the whole 60 children all agreed they did not like rice pudding. Now put your hands down. The parents who were in attendance and want to check me out, and the teachers also checking me out, they wondered where I was going with this. And then I said, put your hands down. Now, can you please put your hands up if you've ever eaten rice pudding? And only about 6 kids put their hand up. And everybody else laughed. I'd made my point, a very deep Buddhist point. Where do your likes and dislikes come from? A lot of it is just because other people say that. That's why you say you like it. And most of the kids have never eaten rice pudding. If you want to know what rice pudding is, it's like rice with some milk, usually some sugar, and it's baked in an oven. That's called rice pudding. I loved it. My mum used to cook that for me so often. But to prove just how people assume they don't like Buddhism, how many of you ever know what it is? The parents, thank you. You taught us a great lesson. But in the kindergarten, they were all Buddhist. Parents Buddhist, teachers, Buddhist kindergarten. And so I was looking at these kids. Okay, it's Wesak. What does Wesak mean? So I said, one of the first things, we celebrate Wesak because it's when the Buddha was born. And so I said, what happened? And I said, the Buddha came out of the mum's womb and immediately walked 7 steps. And as he walked 7 steps, put up a finger and said, this is my last birth. I'm the chief in the world. So kids, stand in a line, walk 7 steps, and put your finger up. Not that one, this one. And they all did that. Because the reason why I did that little exercise, because I do remember when I was at primary school, I've got a pretty good memory there. I remember the teacher say, imagine you're a tree in a forest. Put your hands out, swaying in the wind. You're a tree. We're acting it out as best we possibly could. And I remembered that. It made an imprint on me. So I said, now, the other thing with Wesak, that was the time when the Buddha sat in meditation and became enlightened. And there was a big Buddha statue behind me in this Buddhist kindergarten. So you see that? That's how you meditate. So sit on the ground, all the kids sat on the ground, and cross your legs, right leg over the left leg. Put your right hand over your left hand in your lap, straighten your backs, tuck in your chin, close your eyes, and just watch your breath, the breath go in and the breath go out. And you're now fully enlightened. From now on, you don't need to worry about people hurting you. They can't. You'll be protected by heavenly beings, by nature. Animals love you. You're a Buddha. You've seen that image of the Buddha being sheltered from the rain by this huge serpent called Uchalinda. You don't have to work anymore. You don't have to go to school. Your wisdom, your knowledge is immense. And you don't have to worry about sickness. Your mind is so powerful. If you've got a sore knee, you can just look at it and just all the pain and discomfort will vanish away. All you're going to do now is spread kindness to the whole world. The world's going to love you. You don't have to worry about your little sister or brother giving you a hard time. You're now the Buddha. Everyone worships you. And the kids were sitting down there so quietly, so peacefully, for an amazingly long time, about 10 or 15 minutes. And eventually I opened my eyes and I said, you better come out now. And the teacher said, no, carry on. And the complaints which I got were from the parents. And the complaint was all the same, just one. Why don't you ever teach that to us, Ajahn Brahm? It was very, very powerful. I got people to feel. These are kids, they're intellectually not strong, but emotionally very, very powerful. So feel the emotion of somebody who's just been enlightened, who's in deep meditation. It really works. So that evening, all the parents and a few others, they insisted, please, can you teach us a specially organized meditation evening and teach us kindergarten meditation? It was really powerful. They enjoyed it. They got very deep. Because it's part of the mind which we forget to use. How do you feel? And you get like a monk describing what the Buddha must have felt like under the Bodhi tree, freshly enlightened. Oh, beautiful feeling. You don't have to go to work anymore. You don't have to worry about any sickness. You don't have to worry about any conflicts with your ex-husband or your wife or anybody. Any health is not a problem at all. You're sitting there, all those difficulties and problems in your life are now not relevant anymore. You're a Buddha, fully enlightened. Imagine what that feels like. When I kept on saying these things continuously for about 5 or 10 minutes, people had enough confidence they started to believe me. And they started to actually act the part. And a beautiful meditation. That's how I teach Buddhanusati, meditation on the qualities of the Buddha. That's powerful. Okay, that was actually also the last question. Has anybody else got any? Oh my goodness. There's no end to questions. The mind will disappear at enlightenment, but questions will still occur. These things never cease. Do you need samadhi or jhana to be sotapanna in this life? That's a brilliant question. That's always what we kind of debate. My view, to be a full stream winner, of course you need jhana. Why? Okay, one of my other deep stories. I should really just leave something to give a talk about tomorrow night. But you asked it, so here it comes. The simile of the tadpole and the frog. Once upon a time, if you're sitting comfortably, once upon a time, a little tadpole was born in a lake in Penang, in the grounds of the Buddhist, in this Buddhist society of Penang. And this was a very smart tadpole. It was so smart that when it went to tadpole primary school, it excelled in everything it was taught. Even they had a high school in the Penang Buddhist Association, and the tadpole went to that high school and excelled, especially in chemistry. And they went to university in Penang Association, Penang Buddhist Association of Penang, and graduated with honors in hydrology. Even could overhear in the halls these great monks talking about Abhidhamma of water. What is Abhidhamma say about the nature of water? So this tadpole became an expert, knowing everything about water. Now, how can even a well-educated tadpole know much about water? She was born in water, grew up in water, lived in water. Okay, she studied all the books about water, but how can she really know something which has always been there for her? Like a fish. How can a fish know what water is? It's always there throughout its whole life. But the difference with little tadpole, after she graduated from university with honors PhDs in hydrology, she developed little additions on her body. She grew feet, legs, hands and arms. Little tadpole became a frog. And one day she wasn't told how to use these extra parts of her body which suddenly appeared as she grew into a frog. But one day she jumped outside the lake. The first time ever she had experience of something where there wasn't any water. Imagine what that was like. She was shocked, but also she got new data which she never read in any book. Life outside and beyond water. And because of that, she gained wisdom which most tadpoles, actually all tadpoles, just don't have. What does that simile refer to? One day, you'll be sitting meditation in here or some other place, and you'll gain new abilities to let the body disappear and go into just the mind. That's called jhana. And in that jhana, it's totally different than anything you've ever experienced before. The body, the five senses, is gone. It's just not there. Only now have you got an opportunity to know from your own experience what this body is, really is. How can you know what this body is, even if you're a doctor, when it's always there? Once it vanishes, disappears, you've got the opportunity for insight. Even better than that. Tadpole goes back into the lake, feels comfortable in there, but then as it develops stronger legs and arms, it jumps out further into what we call the second jhana. And in there, what is the difference between the second jhana and the first jhana? Mostly the absence of will. Doing, control, choice is no longer there for you. Do you know what the will is? How can you? It's always there for you. But if you get into the second jhana, will is absent. It's gone. You can't choose. You're kind of stuck. That's why they sometimes call it like diamond, like samadhi. Stillness which cannot be moved. Because the will is absent. For the first time, you know what will is. Once you come out of that second jhana, you'll be into a state clear, found, no sort of doubt at all, because doubt, one of those hindrances, is gone within the jhanas. This is real, true. Will has vanished. It's so nice. Not having to choose. Not being able to choose. You know what will is. You know that's one of the reasons also why Mara, you've heard of Mara before, he can't find any of you once you've entered the jhana. It's a realm he just cannot understand. The will which he celebrates to control others, the will is gone. Now you understand. You understand what the will is, what the five senses are, or even consciousness is when they start to disappear. Then you can be a streamer. The main thing which qualifies you as a streamer is know there's no self. This being who goes by your name is just delusional. You're assuming something which doesn't exist. Everybody else does. They give you a name. How do you feel? You know, sometimes people ask me that question. How are you today, Ajahn? And I say that's one of the most difficult questions to answer in life. I've actually said that to many of you. It's not a joke. How are you? Assumes there's a you in there. What did the Buddha say about that? Nothing. No one in there. Just a process. So what happens to this process? What can kind of answer whether you're a stream winner or not? They have, this is the tale in the Agi Vajragota Sutta. I'm adapting it to make it easier to understand. Imagine an oil lamp. Oh, no, not an oil lamp, a candle. Imagine a candle. You see the flame. What is the flame of a candle? It's a result of three things: the wax, the wick, and the heat of the burning of that fuel. That creates this thing we call a flame. What happens when the wax is all used up, or the wick is burnt out, or a wind blows the heat away? What happens to the flame? Sorry? Where does it go? If it's a very good flame, it's made people able to read and to see dangers, will that good flame go up to heaven where it could burn happily ever after, forever? Will the flame, if it's been a bad flame, burn people and set houses on fire, will that flame go to hell where it can burn people, torture them for eternity? Does that make any sense? That's how the Buddha explained it. Once this stream of consciousness, the thing you take to be yourself, disappears at enlightenment, it doesn't go anywhere. It ceases without remainder. It makes no sense to say it goes somewhere. No more than it makes any sense. The flame, once its fuel is used up, or the wind blows the heat away, it makes no sense to say it goes anywhere. One of the causes which sustains it has ceased. So the flame ceased. One of the causes which sustain you ceases. Nothing else gets reborn. Bye, baby, bye. So that's why you need those experiences, really, to be a full stream winner. Someone who's on the path to being a stream winner is Sotapanna, less requirements. But to be a full stream winner, you have to see the absence of a being, no self. Okay, I knew that was a difficult question. I've said it, most of you, I don't expect you to accept this. If you did, you'd come up and claim to be a stream winner. But I will keep repeating this again and again and again, because this is truth. And one day, you have enough information, enough brainwashing, you will see it for yourself. You'll get into one of these jhanas, you check it out, just like that simile of Ajahn. The only way to capture one of those mangoes from the trees planted by the Buddha is to sit perfectly still and open up your hand. I really thought for years, that's totally wrong. It never matched my experience at all, because my experience was not deep enough yet. But Ajahn was not wrong. It took years to understand that. That's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. That's why I share it with you. Many of you, you've known me for years. Many of you respect me. I'm not crazy, I'm not mad. Just a happy old monk. Thank you for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.